Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face as he looked at the tactical display. The red dots on the screen showed enemy positions getting closer every hour. His hand shook slightly as he reached for his coffee cup, but it was empty. Everything was running out on Kepler Prime. The bunker around him buzzed with quiet activity. Soldiers and civilians worked at computer terminals, their faces lit by the glow of screens showing nothing but bad news. The main shields were down to 30% power. Ammunition supplies would last maybe 2 more days. The orbital defense stations had been destroyed 3 weeks ago. "Sir, we've lost contact with Sector 7, said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her position at the communications desk. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes. Amy had been with him since the beginning of this nightmare, 3 months ago when the Vorthak ships first appeared in their sky. Jake walked over to the main window. Through the thick glass, he could see the city burning in the distance. Smoke rose from dozens of buildings that had been hit by enemy plasma cannons. The beautiful blue sky of Kepler Prime was now filled with dark clouds and the occasional flash of alien weapons. "How many people are left in the Central District?" he asked. "About 15,000, sir," replied Sergeant Tony Chen, looking up from his reports. "Most are civilians. We have maybe 300 soldiers left who can still fight. 300 soldiers against an entire alien army." Jake closed his eyes for a moment and tried to think of a solution. The Vorthak had surrounded them completely. Their ships controlled space above the planet. Their ground forces had better weapons, better armor, and there seemed to be no end to them. The Vorthak were not like humans. They were tall, with gray skin and 4 arms that could use weapons with deadly accuracy. Their technology was far ahead of anything humans had. Their plasma shields could stop most human bullets. Their energy weapons could cut through the strongest human armor like paper. War Prime Zexthul, the alien commander, had sent messages demanding surrender. The messages always ended the same way: surrender or die. Jake had seen what happened to colonies that surrendered to the Vorthak. There were no survivors. Ever. "Sir, incoming transmission," called out Corporal Mike Foster from the radio station. "It's from the mining station on the North Ridge." Jake picked up the handset. "Morrison here. Commander, this is Captain Linda Barnes at North Ridge. They're hitting us hard. We can't hold much longer. Request immediate support." Jake looked at his tactical display. He had no support to send. Every soldier was already fighting somewhere else. "Linda, you need to fall back to the Central District. Bring everyone you can. Sir, we have wounded. We can't move them all." Jake felt his heart sink. These were impossible choices, but he had to make them. "Save who you can, Captain." "That's an order." The radio went quiet. Jake knew that Linda Barnes was a good officer. She had a family, a husband and 2 young children somewhere in the Central District. Now she had to decide who lived and who died. Amy Rodriguez appeared at his side. "Sir, the engineers say the main power plant is failing. We might lose all shields within 6 hours. 6 hours. Jake had hoped for at least 12 more hours, maybe enough time to what? There was no rescue coming. The nearest human military base was months away by hyperspace travel. Even if they had received the distress signals, help would arrive too late. "Get me a channel to all remaining units," Jake ordered. Amy worked at her console for a moment. "You're connected, sir." Jake picked up the microphone. He thought about what to say to people who were about to die. What words could give hope when there was none? "This is Commander Morrison to all units. I know things look bad right now. I know many of you are scared. I'm scared too. But I want you to remember something. We are human beings. We don't give up. We don't surrender to bullies who want to destroy everything we've built here." He paused and looked around the bunker. Everyone had stopped working to listen. "Kepler Prime is our home. These are our families, our friends, our children. The Vorthak think they can just take it from us because they have bigger guns. But they don't understand what it means to fight for something you love. They don't understand that humans will die before they let evil win." Jake's voice grew stronger. "We may not have their fancy weapons or their shields, but we have something they don't have. We have each other. We have the will to fight even when everything seems hopeless. So keep fighting. Keep protecting the people who can't protect themselves. Make every shot count. Make them pay for every meter of ground they take." Morrison out. He set down the microphone and turned to Amy. "Send one more message on all frequencies. Emergency broadcast. Tell them who we are and what's happening here. If anyone is listening out there, they should know that humans fought here. They should know we didn't go quietly." Amy nodded and began typing the message. Jake walked back to the window and watched the battle raging in the distance. Flashes of light showed where human and alien weapons met. Sometimes the lights were white, human bullets and missiles. Sometimes they were green, alien plasma weapons. The green lights were becoming more common. A new explosion lit up the eastern part of the city. Jake could see one of their last tank units being destroyed by enemy fire. The crew probably didn't have time to escape. "Message sent, sir," Amy reported. "Good, now prepare the final defense positions. When they break through the outer walls, we make our stand here in the central district. Every building becomes a fortress. Every street becomes a battlefield." Sergeant Chen looked up from his maps. "Sir, the civilians stay in the deep shelters until the end. If we fall, they lock the doors and hope for the best. Maybe some will survive long enough for help to arrive someday." Jake knew it was a slim hope, but it was all they had left. He looked at his watch. The sun would set in 2 hours. The Vorthak usually attacked hardest at night when their thermal vision gave them an advantage. As if reading his thoughts, Amy called out, "Sir, sensors show massive movement in all enemy positions. They're preparing for a major assault." Jake nodded. This was it. The final battle for Kepler Prime was about to begin. He picked up his rifle and checked the ammunition. 43 bullets left. He hoped it would be enough. Outside, the first enemy plasma blasts began hitting the central district's outer defenses. 3 days had passed since Jake Morrison thought he would die defending Kepler Prime. The human defenders were down to their last ammunition clips. The central district's shields had failed completely. Vorthak ground troops were only 2 blocks away from the command bunker. Amy Rodriguez was helping wounded soldiers when the long-range sensors started beeping with an unusual pattern. She looked at the display and frowned. "Sir, I'm getting readings from the edge of the system. Something just came out of hyperspace." Jake was bandaging a cut on his arm. He had been fighting in the streets for the past 12 hours after the outer defenses finally broke. "Vorthak reinforcements?" "No, sir, the signatures are different. These ships, they're not in our database. They're not Vorthak either." Jake walked over to Amy's station. On the screen, 12 ships were moving toward Kepler Prime at high speed. Their design was sleek and angular, unlike the curved shapes of Vorthak vessels or the boxy human colonial ships. "Try to contact them," Jake ordered, though he didn't expect much. Most of their communication equipment was damaged or destroyed. Amy worked at her console for several minutes. Static filled the speakers, then suddenly a clear human voice came through. "Kepler Prime Command, this is Captain Lisa Hayes of the UES Retribution. We received your distress signal. Please respond." Jake grabbed the microphone so quickly he nearly dropped it. "Captain Hayes, this is Commander Morrison. We are under heavy attack by Vorthak forces. Most of our defenses are down. We have civilians trapped in the central district." "Copy that, Commander. We are the 7th Human Expeditionary Fleet. We've been hunting Vorthak raiders in the Outer Rim for 2 years. We're here to help." Jake felt something he hadn't felt in months. "Hope, Captain. The Vorthak have orbital control and superior ground forces. I don't know how many ships you have, but, Commander, we've been studying these aliens for a long time. We know their weaknesses. Stand by and watch the sky." Jake ran to the window with Amy and several other soldiers. In the distance, they could see Vorthak orbital platforms floating in the atmosphere, their weapons pointed down at the human positions. Suddenly, bright streaks of light came down from space. These weren't the green plasma bolts of Vorthak weapons. These were blue-white beams that cut through the alien platforms like hot knives through butter. One by one, the Vorthak orbital weapons exploded in brilliant balls of fire. "What kind of weapons are those?" Amy asked in amazement. Jake watched as more enemy positions were destroyed by the mysterious new weapons. "I don't know, but they're on our side." Captain Hayes' voice came over the radio again. "Commander Morrison, we're sending down ground support. Major Sam Collins is leading the first wave. They'll establish a landing zone near your position." Minutes later, the sky filled with human dropships. But these weren't the old colonial transport ships Jake was used to. These vessels were fast and heavily armed, with advanced armor that deflected Vorthak plasma fire. The first dropship landed in the plaza outside the command bunker. The rear door opened and soldiers in advanced combat suits ran out. Their armor was black with blue highlights, and it seemed to shimmer slightly, as if it was bending light around it. The lead soldier removed his helmet, revealing a weather-beaten face and gray hair. "Commander Morrison, I'm Major Sam Collins, 7th Fleet Marines." Jake ran out to meet him, staying low as Vorthak weapons fire flew overhead. Major, am I glad to see you? How many troops do you have? First wave is 300 Marines with more coming. We've been fighting these gray-skinned bastards for 2 years. We know how to kill them. As if to prove his point, one of the new soldiers raised a strange-looking rifle and fired at a group of Vorthak troops advancing down the street. The weapon made a sound like thunder, and the aliens' plasma shields flickered and died just before the bullets hit them. How did you do that? Jake asked. Plasma disruption rounds, Collins explained as his men set up defensive positions. We learned that their shields have a specific frequency. Hit them with the right electromagnetic pulse and the shields collapse. More dropships landed, bringing soldiers and equipment. Jake watched in amazement as the newcomers unloaded weapons and supplies he had never seen before. Everything looked more advanced, more deadly. A female soldier with sergeant stripes jogged over. Sir, I'm Sergeant Kate Murphy, Demolitions. Where do you want the heavy weapons? Collins pointed toward the advancing Vorthak forces. Set up plasma mortars on the north side. Use the sonic charges on any enemy armor. Jake had heard of sonic weapons, but he had never seen them used in battle. Major, where did you get all this equipment? We've been reverse engineering captured Vorthak technology. Their science is good, but human engineering is better. We take their ideas and improve them. An explosion nearby reminded everyone they were still in a battle. Collins spoke into his radio. Retribution, this is Collins. We need orbital support on grid reference 77 Alpha. Copy that, Major. Firing solution locked. Take cover. Seconds later, a blue beam of energy came down from space and struck a Vorthak heavy weapons position. The explosion was so bright that Jake had to shield his eyes. What was that? He asked. Quantum torpedo, Collins replied matter-of-factly. We borrowed the idea from a Vorthak heavy cruiser we captured last year. Our version is about 3 times more powerful. Amy Rodriguez ran up to them. Sir, I'm getting reports from all sectors. The enemy is falling back. Their command structure seems confused. Collins nodded. That's because we just destroyed their orbital command ship. Without centralized control, Vorthak ground forces don't adapt well to changing situations. Jake looked around the plaza. Human soldiers were setting up advanced equipment everywhere. Medical teams were treating wounded colonists with devices that seemed to heal injuries in minutes. Engineers were repairing damaged buildings using tools that worked faster than anything Jake had ever seen. Major, how long have you been planning this rescue? Collins checked his weapon and prepared to move out with his troops. We weren't planning to rescue you, Commander. We were tracking the Vorthak fleet that attacked your world. When we received your distress signal, we realized we could hit 2 targets at once, save human lives and destroy a major enemy force. You mean this is just part of a larger operation? That's right. Captain Hayes has been coordinating strikes against Vorthak positions throughout this sector. Your planet was their main supply base. Take it back, and we cut off support for their entire campaign in this region. Jake felt a new kind of hope growing in his chest. This wasn't just a rescue. This was a counterattack. Humans were finally fighting back against the Vorthak Empire, and they were winning. Collins put on his helmet and signaled to his troops. Commander, we're moving out to link up with your remaining forces. Time to show these aliens what happens when they mess with human worlds. As the Marines advanced toward the enemy positions, Jake heard something he hadn't heard in months. The sound of Vorthak troops retreating. Captain Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the tactical display as her fleet moved into attack, formation above Kepler Prime. The Vorthak orbital forces had been caught completely off guard by the arrival of human ships they had never seen before. All ships. This is Hayes. Execute attack pattern Delta. Target their command vessels first, then work your way down to the smaller platforms. Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Frank Miller, coordinated the fleet's fire. Quantum torpedoes locked on primary targets. Plasma disruptor cannons charging. The space battle was unlike anything the Vorthak had experienced. Human ships used hit-and-run tactics, appearing from behind asteroids and debris clouds to strike quickly, before disappearing again. Their new weapons cut through alien shields like they weren't even there. Down on the planet's surface, Major Sam Collins was coordinating with Jake Morrison to plan the ground assault. They had set up a joint command post in what used to be Kepler Prime City Hall. Commander, your people know this city better than anyone, Collins said, pointing at a map on the table. My troops have the weapons and training. If we combine our forces, we can hit the Vorthak where they don't expect it. Jake studied the map. Most of their heavy equipment is concentrated here in the industrial district. They're using our own factories to build more weapons. Then that's our first target, Collins decided. Sergeant Murphy, how much explosives do we have? Kate Murphy looked up from the demolition supplies she was organizing. Enough to level half the city, sir. But I'd rather be more precise about it. A new voice joined the conversation. Maybe I can help with that. Everyone turned to see a woman in a lab coat approaching the table. She had short brown hair and carried a tablet computer. Collins smiled. Commander Morrison, meet Dr. Elena Foster, our Chief Science Officer. She's the reason we have all these new toys. Dr. Foster set her tablet on the table, showing detailed scans of Vorthak equipment. I've been analyzing their technology for 2 years. The good news is that it's very advanced. The bad news is that it's also very complicated. Complex systems have more ways to break. She pointed to one of the scans. See this power coupling here? It's connected to their main weapons, their shields, and their communications. Hit it with the right frequency of electromagnetic pulse and everything shuts down at once. Amy Rodriguez, who had been quiet during the planning session, spoke up. We've been fighting these aliens for 3 months. They always seem to know where we are and what we're doing. How do we stop their surveillance? Dr. Foster smiled and pulled out a small device that looked like a metal sphere. Adaptive camouflage field. It bends light and electromagnetic radiation around our troops. To their sensors, we'll be invisible. Jake picked up the device and examined it. This is human technology, based on Vorthak stealth systems but improved, Foster explained. We took their idea and made it better. That's what humans do, we adapt. Collins gathered his squad leaders around the table. Here's the plan. We divide into 3 teams. Team Alpha hits the industrial district and destroys their production facilities. Team Bravo takes out their communications center. Team Charlie hits their main garrison and rescues any human prisoners. Sergeant Murphy raised her hand. What about their air support? They still have those flying gunships. Collins looked at Dr. Foster. Elena. Foster pulled up another display on her tablet. Sonic disruptors. Sound waves at the right frequency can interfere with their anti-grav systems. Their ships will literally fall out of the sky. Jake felt amazed by what he was hearing. 3 months ago, humans had been helpless against Vorthak technology. Now they had weapons that could beat the aliens at their own game. When do we start? He asked. Collins checked his watch. In 2 hours, when their night shift begins. Vorthak night vision is actually worse than human night vision, despite what their propaganda says. Dr. Foster figured that out by studying captured equipment. The next 2 hours passed quickly as both human forces prepared for the joint operation. Colonial soldiers were given new weapons and equipment. Marine units were briefed on the local terrain. Everyone received one of Dr. Foster's camouflage devices. Jake found himself working alongside Corporal Ryan Davis, Collins' communications specialist. Davis was setting up a new radio system that could coordinate between all the human forces. This equipment is incredible, Jake said, watching Davis work with devices that seemed like magic compared to colonial technology. The 7th Fleet has the best gear in human space, Davis replied. We've been field testing everything for 2 years. Every battle teaches us something new about fighting the Vorthak. Amy Rodriguez joined them, carrying one of the new plasma disruptor rifles. I've never seen anything like these weapons. The power cells alone are more advanced than our best equipment. Davis grinned. Wait until you see what happens when we hit their main base. Dr. Foster has a surprise plan that's going to really mess with their heads. As night fell over Kepler Prime, the human forces moved out. Jake led a mixed unit of colonists and Marines toward the industrial district. They moved through the ruins of the city, invisible to Vorthak sensors thanks to their camouflage fields. The first Vorthak patrol they encountered never knew what hit them. The plasma disruptor rounds went through their shields like paper. The aliens fell without firing a shot. Target the power coupling just like Dr. Foster showed us, Jake whispered to his team. Sergeant Murphy placed a small charge on the alien power distribution center. When it exploded, every piece of Vorthak equipment in a 2-block radius shut down completely. Team Bravo was having similar success at the communications center. Without their advanced sensors and coordination systems, the Vorthak forces began making mistakes. They started firing at shadows, wasting ammunition on targets that weren't there. Team Charlie found the human prisoners in the main garrison. There were almost 200 colonists who had been captured during the early fighting. They were weak and scared, but alive. Collins spoke into his radio. "All teams, this is Collins. Primary objectives complete. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was Dr. Foster's surprise. Across the city, human forces activated sonic disruptors aimed at Vorthak aircraft. The alien gunships that had terrorized Kepler Prime for months suddenly began falling from the sky as their anti-grav systems failed. War Prime Zexthul, the Vorthak commander, watched his forces crumble from his command post. He had never seen humans fight like this. They used tactics his people had no defense against. Their weapons seemed designed specifically to counter Vorthak technology. He activated his emergency communicator to call for reinforcements, but the device was dead. The humans had somehow disrupted all Vorthak communications on the planet. For the first time in his military career, Zexthul felt something he had never experienced before: fear of human soldiers. Admiral Marcus Webb arrived in the Kepler system with 23 additional ships, bringing the human fleet to a total of 35 vessels. He was a tall man with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that had seen too many battles. On the surface, the human ground forces had been pushing the Vorthak back for 3 days. But War Prime Zexthul had called for help, and long-range sensors showed a massive alien fleet approaching the system. Webb met with Captain Hayes and Major Collins in the war room aboard the Retribution. Jake Morrison and Amy Rodriguez joined them by video link from the surface command post. "Gentlemen, lady," Webb began, "we have a problem. Intelligence reports indicate that Zexthul's reinforcements include over 60 ships, including 3 super dreadnoughts. They outgun us by a significant margin." Hayes studied the tactical display showing the approaching enemy fleet. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Webb smiled, and Jake could see why this man had become an admiral. There was something in his expression that suggested he had a plan, even in this impossible situation. "We're going to use the oldest trick in the human military handbook," Webb said. "We're going to make them think they're winning right up until the moment they lose everything." Collins leaned forward. "Sir, what did you have in mind?" "Major, I want you to prepare for a fake evacuation of all human forces from Kepler Prime. Make it look desperate. Load the civilian transports, have soldiers running for the landing zones, the whole show." Jake spoke up from the video screen. "Admiral, with respect, what happens to the people still on the planet if this doesn't work?" "Commander Morrison, if we fight them straight up, we lose and everyone dies anyway. This way we have a chance to win completely." Webb pointed to the display. "The Vorthak fleet will arrive in 18 hours. That gives us time to prepare our trap." Captain Hayes had been quiet during the discussion, but now she spoke. "Admiral, I volunteer to lead the infiltration team." "What infiltration team?" Jake asked. Webb explained the most dangerous part of his plan. While the fake evacuation is happening, a small team will use captured Vorthak technology to sneak aboard their command ship. Dr. Foster has been working on something special for this moment. Dr. Foster appeared on another video screen from her lab. "Admiral, the quantum virus is ready. Once we upload it to their main computer system, it will spread to every Vorthak ship and weapon in the fleet. Their own network will become their weakness." Amy Rodriguez had been studying the plan as they talked. "This is incredibly risky. If they discover the infiltration team before the virus uploads, then we all die," Webb said simply. "But if we don't try, we die anyway. The difference is that this way, we take them with us." The preparation began immediately. On the surface, Jake Morrison coordinated the fake evacuation. Colonial civilians were loaded onto transport ships that would actually take them to safety. But the operation was designed to look panicked and desperate. Major Collins spread his Marines throughout the evacuation zones, making sure they appeared to be barely holding off the Vorthak forces. It had to look real, because the aliens would be watching everything. Captain Hayes led a team of 6 volunteers to prepare for the infiltration mission. They would use a captured Vorthak shuttle and wear alien uniforms created by Dr. Foster's team. Sergeant Kate Murphy was part of the infiltration team. She carried enough explosives to destroy the alien command ship if the virus plan failed. "Captain, what if their security systems detect us?" Hayes checked her disguised weapon. "Then we fight our way out and blow everything up the old-fashioned way." Corporal Ryan Davis would handle the technical side of uploading the virus. He had been studying Vorthak computer systems for weeks. The good news is that their security assumes no one else can understand their technology. They're wrong. The Vorthak reinforcement fleet arrived exactly when predicted. 62 ships, including massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything in the human fleet. War Prime Zexthul immediately began broadcasting surrender demands. Admiral Webb responded with fake desperation. Vorthak forces, this is Admiral Webb. We are prepared to discuss terms for the evacuation of human civilians. Please hold your fire. Zexthul was suspicious, but the sight of human transport ships fleeing the planet seemed to confirm that the humans were beaten. He allowed the fake negotiations to continue while his forces moved into position. The infiltration team launched in their disguised shuttle during the confusion of the evacuation. Hayes flew the craft using stolen Vorthak navigation codes while her team prepared for what might be a suicide mission. Vorthak command ship. This is Transport 779 requesting docking permission, Hayes said in the alien language, which Dr. Foster had taught her. Permission granted. Proceed to Bay 4. The Vorthak command ship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the largest human vessel. As they docked, Hayes could see thousands of aliens moving through the corridors, preparing for what they thought would be their final victory. The human team moved through the ship using forged identification and the confidence that came from knowing they were probably going to die. Anyway, Dr. Foster had given them detailed maps of Vorthak ship layouts based on captured vessels. They reached the main computer core without being detected. Davis began working on the alien systems while Murphy set up explosives as backup. Hayes and the other team members stood guard. Upload is at 60%, Davis whispered. The virus is spreading through their network, but slowly. It needs another 5 minutes. Outside, the fake evacuation was reaching its climax. Admiral Webb had positioned his ships to look like they were protecting the fleeing transports, but actually they were moving into attack formation. Jake Morrison played his part perfectly, broadcasting increasingly desperate reports about Vorthak forces breaking through the evacuation perimeters. His performance convinced Zexthul that victory was certain. Upload complete, Davis announced. The virus is now in their main computer. In 30 seconds, it will activate and spread to every ship in the fleet. Hayes spoke into her communicator. Admiral Webb, the package is delivered. Webb's voice came back immediately. All ships execute Operation Comeback. Hit them with everything we have. The battle that followed lasted only minutes. As the human fleet opened fire, the quantum virus activated throughout the Vorthak fleet. Alien ships found their weapon systems failing, their shields dropping, their communications cutting out. Zexthul watched in horror as his mighty fleet was destroyed by an enemy he had thought was already defeated. Ship after ship exploded as human quantum torpedoes found their targets. On the surface, Jake Morrison led the colonial forces in a final assault on the remaining Vorthak ground troops. Without support from space and with their communication systems failing, the aliens broke and ran. The infiltration team fought their way back to their shuttle as the Vorthak command ship began to tear itself apart. Murphy's explosives weren't needed. The virus had done more damage than any bomb could have. War Prime Zexthul found himself trapped on a dying ship, his mighty fleet in ruins, his ground forces defeated. For the first time, he understood that humans were not just stubborn prey animals. They were predators, and he had walked into their trap. As his command ship exploded around him, Zexthul's last thought was that the Vorthak Empire had seriously underestimated the species called humanity. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler Prime, Jake Morrison stood in his new office as colonel of the Kepler Defense Force. Through his window, he could see the construction of the new orbital defense platforms. These weren't the old colonial installations that had been easily destroyed. These were military-grade stations armed with quantum torpedoes and plasma disruptor cannons. Amy Rodriguez entered the office, now wearing the uniform of a lieutenant colonel. She carried reports from all across the Kepler system, where human colonies were being rebuilt stronger than ever. "Sir, the morning briefings," she said, setting the files on his desk. "Mining operations are back to full capacity. The new civilian militia completed their training yesterday, and Admiral Webb wants to speak with you about the defense fleet expansion." Jake smiled as he looked at the reports. Kepler Prime wasn't just surviving anymore. It was becoming a fortress world, a symbol of human strength that would protect this entire region of space. Dr. Elena Foster appeared on the wall screen from her new research facility. "Colonel Morrison, I wanted to give you an update on our technology programs. We've successfully reverse-engineered the Vorthak shield systems and improved them by 40%. The new human colonies will be protected by defensive systems far superior to anything the aliens originally had. That's excellent news, Doctor. What about weapons development? Foster's eyes lit up with excitement. The Quantum Disruptor project is ahead of schedule. We've also made breakthroughs in faster-than-light communication. Based on Vorthak subspace technology, soon human colonies won't have to wait months for news from other worlds. Jake felt pride as he listened to the reports. The colonists who had once been helpless civilians were now trained soldiers. The world that had almost fallen to alien invasion was becoming a center of human military power. Admiral Webb contacted him from the orbital command station. Colonel, I have good news. The 7th Expeditionary Fleet will be permanently based here in the Kepler system. Captain Hayes has been promoted to Commodore and will command the Defense Fleet. That's wonderful, Admiral. The people here have a lot of respect for Captain Hayes and Major Collins. Major Collins has been promoted to Colonel as well. He'll be training colonial defense forces throughout this sector. The techniques you developed fighting the Vorthak are being taught to human military units everywhere. Jake thought about how much had changed. 3 months ago, he had been preparing to die defending a mining colony. Now he was part of a military network that stretched across dozens of star systems. Collins appeared on another screen from the training facility. Jake, I wanted to update you on the prisoner situation. War Prime Zexthul is cooperating with our intelligence officers. He's providing information about other Vorthak military operations. Is he being treated properly? Jake asked. Even after everything the Vorthak had done, Jake believed in treating prisoners with dignity. Better than his people treated human prisoners, Collins replied. But yes, we follow the Geneva Convention, even in space. Dr. Foster says his information has helped us understand Vorthak tactics across the entire frontier. Amy Rodriguez had been reading through intelligence reports while the others talked. Sir, there's something interesting here. Other human colonies have started fighting back against Vorthak forces. They're using the tactics and weapons developed here on Kepler Prime. Jake looked at the reports Amy showed him. Across human space, colonial militias were defeating Vorthak raiders using plasma disruptor weapons and adaptive camouflage systems. The technology that had saved Kepler Prime was spreading to every human world. Dr. Foster spoke up from her screen. Colonel, we've received requests from over 30 colonies for our defensive technology packages. Human worlds that were once easy targets are becoming dangerous for Vorthak raiders. Admiral Webb nodded approvingly. The balance of power is shifting. The Vorthak Empire used to think humans were weak and divided. Now they're learning that attacking one human world means fighting all of humanity. Jake walked to his window and looked out at the bustling activity of New Kepler City. The buildings destroyed in the battle had been rebuilt with stronger materials. The people walking the streets were no longer scared refugees. They were confident citizens of a world that had faced destruction and emerged stronger. Commodore Hayes contacted them from her flagship. Gentlemen, lady, I have an announcement. The first class of colonial officers graduated from the new Human Defense Academy today. 50 young people from different worlds, all trained in the latest military techniques. Collins smiled. That's just the beginning. We're planning to train 10,000 officers in the next 2 years. Every human colony will have professionally trained defenders. Jake felt a deep satisfaction as he listened to his colleagues. The victory at Kepler Prime hadn't just saved one world. It had started a transformation of human civilization. Colonies that had been isolated and vulnerable were becoming connected and strong. Amy Rodriguez brought him a new report. Sir, this just came in from Earth Command. The President wants to visit Kepler Prime next month to see the defense installations. The President of the Terran Federation? Jake asked, surprised. Yes, sir. Apparently our victory here has become famous throughout human space. They're calling it the turning point in the war against the Vorthak Empire. Dr. Foster appeared excited on her screen. Colonel, I've been contacted by universities on Earth. They want to study our research data. The quantum virus program is being expanded into a fleet-wide defense system. Jake sat down at his desk and thought about everything that had happened. 6 months ago, he had been sending out desperate distress signals, hoping someone might remember that humans had fought and died on Kepler Prime. Now, the battle was being studied in military academies across the galaxy. Collins interrupted his thoughts. Jake, there's one more thing. The 7th Fleet is preparing for a major offensive against Vorthak territory. We're not just defending anymore. We're going to take the fight to them. Admiral Webb confirmed this. Operation Freedom Strike will launch in 3 months. We're going to hit every major Vorthak base in this sector. The aliens who thought they could conquer human worlds are about to learn what happens when humans go on the attack. Jake looked around at his friends and colleagues on the various screens. These were the people who had saved his world and transformed it into something greater than it had ever been before. Admiral, Commodore, Colonel, Doctor, he said formally. It has been an honor serving with all of you. Kepler Prime will always be ready to do its part in defending human freedom. As the meeting ended and the screens went dark, Jake walked back to his window. In the distance, he could see the launch platforms where new starships were being built. These weren't just colonial transports or mining ships. These were warships designed to carry the fight to humanity's enemies. Amy Rodriguez joined him at the window. Sir, do you think the Vorthak will try to attack Kepler Prime again? Jake smiled and pointed to the orbital defense stations, the patrol ships, and the military training facilities. Let them try, Amy. We're not the same people they attacked 6 months ago. We're not victims anymore. We're the ones other humans call when they need help. He picked up his communication device and composed a message that would be broadcast to every human world in the sector. This is Colonel Jake Morrison of Kepler Prime. 6 months ago, our world faced destruction. Today we stand stronger than ever. To every human colony listening to this message, you are not alone. We are all connected. We all defend each other. And to any alien force that threatens human lives, we are coming for you. As the message went out across the galaxy, Jake knew that the age of human vulnerability was over. The species that had once been prey had become the hunters, and the galaxy would never be the same.